Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, Barakatah. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and peace and salutations to Yahakim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the Brother Raya with another video, and I'm going to be using an article from the economiccollapseblog.com titled, "While many on the right are sleeping, many on the left are promising to bring war to the streets of America." This is beautiful, Akim. This is just more of an indication that we're in the last seconds of the last days, because in the scriptures it speaks that there would be civil wars and race wars before Yahushai HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, would return to save his people, who are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the true Hebrew Israelites. So let's get into it. You might want to start taking the radical left seriously when they tell us you ain't seen nothing yet and that this is just the beginning. They are making threats that they intend to back up. There have been other times in modern American history when the left has resorted to physical intimidation and violence, but I believe that what is coming is going to far surpass anything that we have ever experienced before, and the author's definitely right on that. Of course, not everyone agrees with me. On Monday, I authored a piece about the Civil War that is rapidly approaching, and there were some that loudly criticized me for it. They insisted that we didn't have anything to worry about from the left and that I was blowing things out of proportion. Salakia. As you read the rest of this article, I hope that everyone will start to see that I am not exaggerating the threat one bit. And what we should all be able to agree on is that the radical left is super energized right now. And real quick, I'll say that you can see a bias in this author towards the left just being aggressive, when the right's just as aggressive. These Edomites on the right can see that things are going bad for America, that jobs are getting shipped across the country or being automated, that opioid crisis is ravaging their community, and that the birth rate of so-called white people is going down, and that they're going to be a minority soon. So they're worried about that, and they believe that with Trump coming into office, that he's going to really make America great again and bring them back to those good old days where everybody knew their place. But regardless of whether somebody's a Democrat or Republican, it's all just political theater. The people at the top rub shoulders with the elites and are just working to push forward the elites' agenda, which is to bring about a civil war, which will bring about the unrest they need to bring in martial law to help establish their new world order, and that mark of the beast, which is the microchip. Though first and foremost, it's all through the will of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, to bring these prophecies forth. Just look at what happened on Tuesday. 28-year-old radical socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez absolutely crushed 10-term Congressman Joe Crowley in a Democratic primary in New York. She was outspent 18-1, and in normal times, something like that would never happen. But these aren't normal times. While many on the right are in a deep state of slumber, which I highly doubt it, the radical left is seething with anger. Many of them truly believe that Donald Trump is the closest thing to Hitler that America has ever seen, and they also believe that anyone that supports Donald Trump is essentially a modern-day Nazi. And earlier this week, there was that Democratic representative named Maxine Waters who called for people out there to harass people in the Trump's administration if they saw him out in public over that child separation policy and those northern tribes, Jakes, or those so-called Latinos being in those detention centers. And how much would it take for the average American dildo head out there to misconstrue that to mean attack Trump supporters as well, which is going to further exacerbate the issue. And if you take that line of thinking to the rational conclusion, any form of resistance against Nazi tyranny is justified, including the use of violence. For a few moments, I would like to examine an article that a progressive writer named Hamilton Nolan authored for Splinter entitled "This is Just the Beginning." In his piece, he posed an ominous question to those of us that are conservatives. Do you think that being asked to leave a restaurant or having your meal interrupted or being called by the public is bad? My fascism-enabling friends, this is only the beginning. Kind of what happened to Jake back then and what's happening to Jake now. These Edomites don't like that heat getting put on them, especially these right-wing Edomites. It doesn't take much reading between the lines to figure out what he means by that. In fact, later on in the article, he tells us exactly what he meant. The U.S. had thousands of domestic bombings per year in the early 1970s. This is what happens when citizens decide en masse that their political system is corrupt, racist, and unresponsive. The people out of power have only just begun to flex their dissatisfaction. The day will come sooner than you all think when Trump administration officials will look back fondly on the time when all they had to worry about was getting hollered at a Mexican restaurant. For those of you that still don't get it, he is openly telling us that domestic terrorism is coming to the U.S. cities, Slovakia. There are many on the left that actually crave a violent revolution, and they look back on Bill Ayers and the Weather Underground as inspiration. The following comes from Art Moore, and a lot of those people on the left are, on the right they're brainwashed as well, but on the left they're in that Antifa spirit. And if you know anything about Antifa, you know that it's largely backed by George Soros, who rubs shoulders with the elites. So they're pushing for that, and they know that people on the left are easily manipulated through gender politics and stuff like that to see injustices towards minorities and women and stuff like that. And with Trump being as abrasive as he is, you can see how that situation could easily be stirred up to get people on the left to resort to violence, which you also did see after Trump was elected. There were a lot of riots in the streets. In the years of 1971 and 1972 alone, according to the FBI, more than 2,000 bombs were planted throughout the United States by domestic terrorist groups. Among the chief culprits was the Weather Underground, led by Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn, who hosted a fundraiser at the home to launch Barack Obama's political career. Among the Weather Underground's targets were the Pentagon and the U.S. Capitol. Hamilton Nolan is not just some crank. He has actually written an article for the New York Times, and he is quite popular in leftist circles. In his piece for Splinter, he was quite careful not to call for bombings himself, but at the conclusion of his article, he did state that it was time to start fighting Trump and to begin treating members of the Trump administration, as well as people who support Trump, as criminals. Stop working for this man, stop enabling him, stop assisting him, start fighting him. The people who are responsible for what is happening are not going to get out of this with their happy, wealthy, respectable lives unscathed. This is a country that locks poor people in cages for decades for trying to make $20. This is a country that is tough on crime, remember, and the ones who make the laws are not going to like what happens when America starts to regard them as the criminals. So far, Nolan's piece has been read by more than 798,000. So far, Nolan's piece has been read more than 798,000 times. And of course, Nolan is far from alone. This week, radical leftists all over the country have been circulating a video on social media that seems to imply that Trump supporters should be gunned down at restaurants. And a lot of this is just propaganda to get people riled up. If this kind of hatred continues to be spewed relentlessly, it is only a matter of time before widespread violence breaks out, which it is. Sadly, progressive leaders just continue to get more and more heated with their rhetoric. For example, Michael Moore just compared Donald Trump to a rapist and his supporters to accomplices to rape. And a lot of these celebrities are a part of that agenda for the New World Order. So you can see, when you always see issues like this come up, they're always some of the first ones to come out and really stir the pot to get people riled up in their emotions. Grabien News reported filmmaker and frequent MSNBC guest Michael Moore likened Trump voters to accomplices to rape. If you hold down the woman while the rapist is raping her and you didn't rape her, are you a rapist? Moore added, anybody who enables, anybody who votes for, and supports a racist is a racist. You are culpable, white America. I'm sorry. If you don't believe that chaos is coming to the streets of America, just go hang out in places where radical leftists talk with one another on the internet. They are quite clear on what is ahead if they can't take back control of America at the voting box, and it isn't pretty. And like I said earlier, while both people on the right and the left are aggressive, it's looking like the left's going to be the one to really start popping things off, since they've been more active and showing out their aggression towards their fellow Edomites on the right, as well as the Trump administration. And to a certain extent, it has already started. In a recent article, Kevin McCullough summarized just a few of the things that we have seen happen in recent days. Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen was literally shouted at until she left dinner at an eatery near the White House. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders just Friday evening was told that she would not be served, nor her family, at the Red Hen Eatery of the Shenandoah Valley in Lexington, Virginia. She was told she was refused service because she works for the president. Secretary Nielsen has had additional groups camped outside her house playing loudspeakers, disturbing the peace of she and her neighbors. Entitled leftist celebrities like Robert De Niro Bogart awards shows encouraging viewers to sexually violate the president. Washed-up former TV stars like Tom Arnold claim they will harass the First Lady at her son's school, and true Hollywood losers like Peter Fonda claims that Sarah Sanders, as well as Melania Trump's children, should literally be raped by pedophiles and sex traffickers, which I'm sure Peter Fonda hopes that he could do that, since a lot of those celebrities are pedophiles and homosexuals. Sadly, the list keeps growing. On Monday, a group of angry leftists ambushed Senator Mitch McConnell's vehicle while he was leaving an event, and on Tuesday, authorities in Los Angeles arrested 25 people that were protesting in anticipation of the arrival of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Arrests were made as hundreds of protesters gathered in downtown Los Angeles Tuesday ahead of a planned visit by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. 25 people were taken into custody after the peaceful, organized protest was declared an unlawful assembly by Los Angeles police. Clergy were seen among those being arrested. And just think, when the average American peon out here can't get towards these political figures because they're going to start upping their security, who are they going to take their frustration out on? Their fellow Americans who are Trump supporters. Crowds holding signs were given a 5-minute warning to disperse by LAPD before the arrest took place, according to authorities. All it is going to take is one large trigger event to set this country ablaze from coast to coast. Anger and frustration are already at unprecedented levels, and this is happening even though the economy is performing relatively well, which whoever this author is living in La La Land. He believes the official numbers when you got to really dig deep to see that this economy isn't doing well, and it's only going to get worse once this trade war heats up and prices start increasing over here. Imagine if it wasn't. The Republican Party has just released a new video entitled Unhinged, and I recommend that you take a few moments to watch it. If the radical left is this crazed now, what are they going to be like once things really start to go bad in this country, which is coming very soon? And that's pretty much it with this article. But as you brothers can see, things are heating up with these Edomites starting to turn against Edomite, which is all prophecy, and now I'm going to get into some scriptures. Salakia. First, I'm going to go to Isaiah chapter 19. Salak. I had my video on airplane mode, so I wouldn't get any calls, but Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the Egyptians it's speaking about is modern-day Americans, because the Americans today come in that spirit of Egypt, as it says in Revelation 11, verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city, And this great city is speaking of Babylon the Great,